Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the iOS app version of Gem Rush, 2nd edition. Gem Rush is primarily a hand management game. You're going to be drawing cards, you're going to be using those cards to explore this labyrinth of rooms. You pay the gems necessary, you get some victory points, and you put down a new room connected to the previous room you're coming from. You do this enough, you win the game, or at least in one of the different modes you can play. This game has 2 different modes. You can play Rush mode or Crisis mode. One of them is cooperative. Everybody's racing together to get as many points as possible. In the other one, you are just trying to get to a certain number of victory points before anybody else. Try to have the most when the game is over. I like both ways to play. I think they're both valid, and it gives the game some nice replayability. So let me break down the gameplay itself a little bit more, and then I'll tell you, what I think of this app. If I think it does a good job of both recreating what people liked in the original game, and if it's a good one if you haven't played the original game, okay? So, again, like I said, in the game, on your turn, I'm going to be explaining here the competitive mode. I think I like it a little bit more, but they're both good. So, competitive mode. On your turn, you are going to be able to take several steps. I think it's 3 or 4. So, you get to move from one room to another one. If you are at an opening on a room, you can take a step out into the unknown space. That still counts as one of your steps, as long as you pay the cost right there by the door. So you will spend cards from your hand. They normally have 2 different gems. You can use both gems on the card, but if the cost only requires 1, and say the other one is green and the door doesn't need green, then you're just wasting the second half of the card, which is fine. It'll happen all the time. So that's the first thing you are doing. You can open up these places as many as you can get to in a single turn, okay? Every time you go through one of these, you're probably making some victory points, and you'll just add those to your pool. And once you've run out of actions, or you simply want to stop, then you are going to do one of 2 things normally. You can draw a card from the deck, or you can take the action in the room. There's a few rooms that do other stuff, okay, but most of them let you take an action, it ends your turn, and normally it lets you draw cards. There's a bunch of different ways you can draw cards. Some rooms say, ask for a color, flip over cards from the deck until you find 2 of those, take them. So I could say blue, flip over until I get 2 cards that feature blue. Some of them say, flip over 4, keep 1. Some say, discard a card, draw 4. Some say, empty your hand and then do something wild. This is how they all work, okay? They have some sort of way for you to manipulate what you're going to get, which is really interesting. Or you can just draw 1 card, like I said. And then it's the next player's turn. So let's talk about what I think of the original game. The board game itself, or the card game itself, I actually happen to own. I'm very happy I own because it's hard to get. And I rated an 8 out of 10. This is 2nd edition, which is what this one's based on. The 1st edition looked worse, was of cheaper quality, but it was still a good game. And I probably rated that, a 7.5. The second one certainly is better. Now, other things about it. Let's talk about the ease of use here. I think it's very good. There is, as far as I can find, not a back button, though there is this weird sort of history button, but everything is very easy to use. You can hold everywhere that makes sense, and things are going to pop up, so that's very logical. They give you a nice ability to spin the entire map over and over so that you can basically be sitting at any point at the table, right? That's lovely. You can play with different AI levels. You can pass and play. It all works smoothly. It's very nice. The way the game looks, I think, is pretty spectacular. The graphics are great. It jumps around a little bit. The programming kind of, when you move from you to an AI player, it sort of goes through it kind of quickly and jumps around a little bit. If you're familiar with the game, that's not too problematic. Otherwise, it might feel a little erratic. But I think the look is very bright, very well done. Everything is clear. And the iconography, which could be a problem in the original game, you'd have to look at what everything did, just simply goes away. You hold on whatever you're not sure about, it tells you what it is, right? The pizzazz here. I don't know if I would give it a pizzazz kick. This one doesn't really do anything that I would say is, goes above and beyond. It's a very well implemented app, but I don't think it gets anything beyond that. The lobby, for example, which was always empty when I tried to play, by the way, just was pretty, it felt classic for lack of a meaner term, I guess. There was no bells and whistles there. There was that weird feature sort of going through the movement history, which also felt a little bizarre. Not sure we needed all that, but yeah, the pizzazz is just not there, really. AI is good. Nice different levels for the AI, so that works well for me. I like that. And I always find myself sort of throwing in an opponent of each different difficulty and seeing how they play, and they all behave well. It's a challenge. It definitely adds a lot of interest to the game. Now, problems. Let's talk about problems here. The no back button is really the only thing. As far as I can tell, I could not find it. If it's in there, then I'm sorry. It should have been a little more apparent. But the back button was really the only problem I had, and besides the fact that nobody seemed to be playing. Everything else I did not have an issue with. Nothing crashed, nothing seemed glitchy, everything worked well. The clarity of whether you have powers on or off, whether they're random or you pick it, your player color, AI player color, all of those things were smooth, were well done, and I could easily follow what was going on. So no issues with the technology or the pace, really, except for, like I said, sometimes it jumps to an AI player, and that might be momentarily disorienting, but it's not a big deal. And then lastly, multiplayer or solo. Played a lot of solo. I think it's great. Multiplayer in the lobby. Never been able to get anybody in there. But the pass and play in this game is excellent. Wonderful. I really liked it. And it takes care of so much for you. I love that there's a bump screen when you are done with your turn where it says, okay, this player will be next, but you have to press a button to actually go to that player. I know most games do that, most apps do that, but it's always nice to do it. It's always nice to see that I'm done doing what I did. It hides my cards, shows that the next player is ready to begin, but doesn't show me anything, and I give it to the next player. They press their button, they're into it. Works smoothly, very well. And you don't have to worry about the setup of the cards, where you're sitting at the table, understanding the symbology. All of it is handled so well. This app really excels at the pass and play. It's my favorite part of it, actually. So overall, I think this is not just a wonderful game with an excellent implementation, but it's a hard-to-get game. It's a game that in its physical form is sort of difficult to get your hands on, which for me elevates the fact that this app exists, that it is a good one, and that it allows for this wonderful game, a game that I think very highly of, to reach a wider audience. So I'm actually giving the app a slightly higher score than I give the physical game, which is an 8. I'm going to give the app a little bump, say it's an 8.5, okay? You could even maybe convince me to go to a 9 because it's so good. I'm going to say 8.5. Very smooth, really well done. I completely recommend it, folks, if you are looking for just a pretty straightforward card game, some gem collection, hand management, right? Exploring, grabbing some victory points, but then a lot going on with special powers, 2 ways to play, pass and play, all that stuff. This is where you want to be. That is Gem Rush, the iOS app, is what I reviewed, okay? So there you go. That's an 8.5. That's it for me, everybody. My name is Zee Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.